Have you told your friends that you see ghosts?
Oh, absolutely not.
Gina Rodriguez returns in Not Dead Yet.
I'm back, baby!
Who is up?
Oh, she's the obituary writer.
And Brad Garrett joins the brilliant ensemble cast.
Titan, Maverick, Titan of all Mavericks. These are all words used to describe me.
Not Dead Yet. Season premiere. Tonight, 8:30, 7:30 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.
This week at Horror Movie Night, we deal with an infestation of barely mobile bug puppets. This flick comes from Troma, so you know it's going to be good. And unfortunately, the bugs have outnumbered us 100-1, so we've brought in some reinforcements with Brian Kelly. Join us as we discuss the most absurd giant killer smart bugs horror film that I've ever seen on Horror Movie Night. So yeah, I picked this one.
Of course.
I'll take the blame on this. I picked this movie basically for like 2 scenes in this movie, but I know what next week's pick is, and I think I could say the same for Scott, so I feel like this is totally justifiable. So Bugged starts off with 2 lab employees who are coming to move some toxic waste, and then they're just given like 10 minutes of exposition and a flashback.
Yeah, that doctor is chatty as fuck.
It really is.
It's like, hey, let me give you all this information that you didn't ask for.
Yeah, so he tells him about, I believe his name is Dr. Craig. Dr. Craig creates an intelligence serum, but like the FDA refuses to let human testings begin because of the mutations. But Dr. Craig is like, no, it's totally fine. Like, we've been giving it to rats and they haven't mutated. So he decides to administer it to himself, and he becomes like hyper intelligent. And like their version of hyper intelligence is that he's just like on a keyboard for like 5 minutes.
Yes, I saw him hit F5 and 6 like 7 times.
You're like, man, this movie's gonna be difficult to watch strictly because of that.
So all of a sudden, Dr. Craig starts like having a relationship with his assistant, and he calls her and is like, you need to come to the lab right away. And that's when you see that the rat is now mutated, and so is he. And this leads to one of the biggest laughs in the entire movie, which is he's just like, he gives this super serious speech about how like he messed with things that shouldn't be messed with, and he hands the gun to her and he's like, I need you to do this, shoot me, and she shoots the gun, and it's quiet for a couple seconds, and then his hand comes out and moves the gun a little bit. He goes, a little to the left, dear.
Yep. God, I love that. That honestly is the best part of the whole movie. We can just stop.
That's the problem with this movie, is that, and I think I told you this in a text message, Scott, if this movie decided to just be a comedy, I think it could have been a good comedy, but they keep like doing these like there's like 2 or 3 comedic beats that are really good.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is just like they're trying to do a serious movie, and it's like, no, you made a mistake. You should have stuck with the over to the left deer stuff, or my favorite part in the movie, a bug with a gun. But like, so the exposition ends there. The lab workers are driving this stuff, and it spills, and now they're mutated by the chemical leak. Like, this movie, I realized, has like 30 minutes of like the beginning of Scream, where you keep thinking, like, you think Drew Barrymore is the main character, and then she dies. Like, it does that like twice, where it's like, it's like, oh, okay, it's not okay. So the main characters are these 2 exterminator guys who pick up the tanks incorrectly, but it's like, oh wait, no, those are just delivery guys delivering the tanks to the main characters. Like, it's just, it takes so long to finally meet your actual main characters.
And I really didn't enjoy this movie at all. I mean, there might have been one scene, but when like the whole basis of the movie is just a classic case of mix-up, where where they just put the tubes back or whatever the containers in the wrong van, counts, shrugs, gets in the car and drives off. That explained what I was looking at for the next hour of my life.
Listen, like we give you the option to not come on the podcast. You do this. It's not like you don't know your brother. Like you have only yourself to blame for these events.
And it's so weird because like when I go to watch the movie, I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then I watch it and I'm like, this sucks. Why do I do this to myself? And then as soon as I'm done recording, I'm like, oh, it's fun. I'd like to go on next week.
Welcome to the last 6 years of my life.
So I will say this movie has a lot of bad going on in it, but like some of the things that I actually thought were pretty decent was like I like the look of the dudes in the truck as they're melting was like not the worst thing, especially the guy who's in the driver's seat who like smashes his face up against the glass is probably
it's pretty gooey.
Yeah, it's probably the best looking special effect of the whole movie because God knows that they fucking phoned it in on the bugs. But
oh my God.
This is a question that I have about Troma in general. I don't know if they intentionally aim to make really shitty special effects. One, because they think that that's schlocky and funny, or because they legitimately can't do good effects.
Well, this was a purchased one. Well, this wasn't even a produced by Troma. This was a purchased by Troma, which is like that's like 90. Unless the movie's directed by Lloyd Kaufman, it's almost always something that they bought. They only finance, like physically put money into financing like one movie every like 2 years. And the rest is like people making shit in their backyard and being like, Troma will put this out. And Troma going, of course we will. So we're introduced to Divine and like it is the most insane introduction because we get everything we need to know about her through 3 voice messages on her answering machine.
Yeah.
It's like,
and her dad is apparently Red Fox.
Yo, have you called your mother? Well, and then there's like the other guy who leaves a voicemail and okay, I will admit right now, this is probably a more racist version of the voice than it actually is, but it's just basically like, yo girl, I heard you boy broke up. Give me a holler. Like, it's like,
everybody wants to bang her. Like, given she's an attractive woman and she's an accomplished author, but it broke my suspension of disbelief at this point when everybody was like, dear God, I must be inside you.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was like, what a weirdo. Who does that? And then I realized that this movie was back then, and like in our day, it's Facebook, and I've done that a lot of times via Facebook message.
You see a relationship status change, and immediately just like, hey, girl.
You need someone to talk to?
How many times? This is a question for listeners. How many times has B. Kelly sent you a Facebook message that says, "I want to be inside you"?
You don't have to answer that.
All right, so we finally meet our main characters about 25 minutes into this movie, and they're sent to Divine's house, which it sucks that her name's Divine because all I'm imagining is a drag queen from Pink Flamingo. Sorry,
yeah. When I read this the wiki page for this, I was like, oh my God, did Matt pick it because Divine from Pink Flamingos was in it?
All right, so they get to her house. And the one dude, Steve, is just like macking on Divine. And Dave is like spraying through the house and he keeps like passing out because clearly like the whole thing is like, oh, this is a brand new chemical. It's supposed to dissolve the bugs. So that's why they don't think it's weird when it's literally like a fucking smoke bomb has been dropped as if the Joker's trying to make a getaway. And like Dave turns out to be an actual fan of her writing and can like quote it and stuff. And she's like super turned on that he like actually knows her poetry, while as Steve is just like,
which is so narcissistic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So
does anyone else think your poetry sucked? Like it wasn't good.
Oh my God. We haven't really touched any of my notes, but Oh boy, I kept a couple quotes, and here's my favorite one: "We've fallen from grace. We know making love in this mystical place." I think I might be missing a comma in there, but so is she.
Jesus, her poetry is like horrendous.
It's so bad. And the thing that angers me most about this movie is like, they always say if you're going to make a good movie, don't tell what's going on, show it. And this movie has to explain everything from sexual attention to what's going on. Even when she got the phone call, the guy who answered says, "Hello? Yeah, we'll send someone over. So you got a bug problem? You're the exterminator. I have a bug problem."
Oh, dude, at least half the characters in this movie just feel like Dave Chappelle throwaway characters. Like,
dude, that is racist as fuck.
It's accurate as hell, too. So at night, the bugs begin to mutate. And then Divine wakes up with one just staring her down. And it looks like the cootie from that game that you used to play as kids where you build a cootie.
Oh my God. That is a deep cut. I love it. Good job, Matt.
I never understood how that game was played, ever. I just built the cootie and was like, okay, what do I... But again, I was playing alone, so I guess it's not a very fun game.
Oh, man.
To play by
Jesus
yourself.
Christ. Wow. I mean, we've got your brother on here that was like your baby brother who's supposed to play cootie with you, and he's probably too busy like being cool with G.I. Joes and shit.
There's a 6-year age gap, so by the time he was at cootie age, I was 10, and I feel like I probably was past cootie. I probably wasn't past cootie.
No, I was about to say, you're not past cootie. This is the dude that like, you're probably like, dude, hey, let's play Dungeons and Dragons. He's like, I'm fucking 5.
That still happens, but now he's just like, I'm 25.
Yeah. I don't want to play cooties with you. I want to sit on AIM and message girls about their ex-boyfriends.
Oh my God. Yeah. If anybody has AIM logs, those will also go towards the count. And if you do, hopefully you don't have the ones that I sent you.
Yeah. They come back to the house, and this is where we're introduced to what I refer to as the bug searching device, which looks like the remote control that controls the lawnmower in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but it's it's just got like a little satellite on. It's like boom, boom, as he's like walking around the house trying to find bugs, and that's when Dave finds my favorite bug, which is the giant ass bug in the basement that's eating like a squirrel or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he's like, they freak out and they run upstairs and they're like, there's a really big bug. And then somebody offers them a gun. Yeah, Divine is like, somebody's, the question is, how big is the bug? And then somebody says about the size of a football. And then Divine, they're like, do you have a gun? And Divine is like, yeah, sure. And she gets him a legit revolver. Then they go downstairs back to the basement to try and shoot the bug with a revolver.
Well, and then they take it. So there's a thing that we skipped because it's pointless, but it's important to bring up now. So they kill this bug and they bring it back to the exterminator center.
Oh, and he's you got to fight the inanimate objects.
Yeah, he has to fight that. But like, we've completely skipped over the fact that there is apparently a biggest dead bug competition, and one dude is.
I did write a note on that because I'm like, I don't think that's what exterminator is, but I don't know enough about it.
B. Kelly, are you an exterminator? No, shut the fuck up.
But like, he's got like this dead bug like set up in like a chair, like a beach chair, like. But like
yeah, I love their like little their entries into the contest. He's like, got a dead bug in a nuclear waste site, got a dead bug at the beach, got a dead bug sitting in a chair on the couch. Oh, we're not going to win this year. So-and-so had a really big bug last year.
It's so dumb, but it's only there to set up that the other two exterminators decide to go because they're jealous that these guys have found bigger bugs than they did. So they need to win the competition.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. That's logical.
Then we get to the house, and then like one dude's killed in the attic right away. And then there's a bug that knocks on the door in order to get into the house. And like, this is where the movie just fucking falls apart. And I have one quote. There's only one.
Matt, I'm pretty sure it's falling apart.
But this is where it just crumbles entirely. There's a scene where Divine and Dave are like getting really flirty, and their flirtiness is like horrendous.
Oh my God. It's like me at a junior high dance.
Yeah. So the previous day, she was talking about how she has writer's block and she needs to like get to her deadline, blah, 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 blah. And then it's the next morning and he's like, so how's the book going? She goes, oh, it's great. I'm on the last chapter now. And I'm like, from fucking when?
She went to sleep the night before, woke up with a bug on her chest and has not done any more writing.
So their plan to fight the bugs is that they're going to make a full body out of rat poison, and like they straight
smart bugs. They're gonna know this.
Well, and they double down on this plan. Like this plan takes hours, and no one's like, "Hey, maybe we should have a backup plan in case this doesn't work." They're just all in on the giant fake human plan. Like that's what they're putting their money behind. The bugs obviously know that it's fake, and leads to one of the other really great comedic moments where they toss out this fake body and then the door opens and a chicken on like a fishing hook comes like flying into the house. Which again, if they can just open the door, like I don't know why they're not just coming into the house to begin with.
Yeah, there was one scene in this movie that did make me laugh, and it just shows how simple this is to make me laugh in any film, no matter how it's executed. And it's when he goes, Gunther's probably just sitting downstairs sipping coffee, reading newspaper, and then it just cuts to him sipping coffee.
So the other, I mentioned it briefly, but they're going through like all the different weapons that they have, and they're like putting it on the table, and each time they put it on the table, you see like the little like bug claw come up and take the weapons down. And they're like, he's stealing our weapons, and he looks down, and it's this silhouette of it, like a completely immobile puppet, and all of a sudden this little tiny hand holding a gun pops up, and it's like, it is so fucking bonkers that it's in this movie.
But you know, this movie is so much more fun to talk about than it is to watch. Like this movie is a really painful watch, but man, there's some comedy gold when you're like talking about it after the fact. You're like, this really happened in a film.
I don't know if I've ever watched a shorter movie in which I was constantly hitting the like display button to see how much time was left, where I was like,
yeah,
I was like,
and we have the same problem with next week.
Yeah,
too.
I was like 82 minutes, and then like I hit the button. I'm like, there's still 40 minutes. I've been watching 42 minutes already, or I've only watched 42 minutes. Then
hey, so the bug props, the ones that don't articulate, are hilarious because they're just on a yeah. Well, there's one that has an articulating jaw, but when it's before they're going through their guns and like making the fake human out of rat poison. By the way, I don't know how you make rat poison, but are you really supposed to like boil it on the stove? Wouldn't you be inhaling poison?
Yeah, I would believe so, and I believe it takes more than baking soda and water.
Yeah, and like the Gunther keeps coming over as Divine and the one other dude are like macking it up with each other and about to kiss, and he's like, so how's that soup coming? And she's like, it's coming along great. I'm like, you just put that on the stove, it's not even boiling. But the bug prop on the kitchen floor is literally somebody pulling an inanimate bug prop with fishing line, and that got a laugh out of me. But then they're looking at the Egyptian art, right? And it's on Divine's
Jesus,
wall.
I forgot about the Egyptian art.
Yeah, and she's like, it's a piece of papyrus from the papyrus plant.
So the most memorable death in this movie is right near the end, where the character of Sam is killed by a pipe bomb, and then he is cartoonishly splattered into the wall from it.
Oh my God.
It's right out of Hot Shots. That happens in Hot Shots too.
All the deaths were straight out of comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, the electrocution was like a shittier Home Alone.
Oh my God, the one that's the
skeleton.
Yeah,
it's back. The quick cuts to the smoldering corpse, and oh man. Oh, I loved that. I laughed real hard at that. I don't think that they intended it for it to be funny, but yeah, they spent all their money on that fuse box death and the guy stuck in the wall death, and they had no budget for an exploding house. So they just cut to black and then have an explosion sound.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Well, and then, I mean, the big twist of the movie is like Divine and Dave escape, only to find out that Dave is now mutating into a giant human bug.
Yeah. So the best part about that last scene is that this movie was so incredibly low budget. They didn't even have a boom mic for that last scene next to the highway. And you can barely hear what they're saying because there are like semis going in the highway behind them.
Yeah.
Oh man. This movie is such a hot mess. Yeah.
Yeah, this movie was fantastic. I'm so glad that we sat through and suffered for our craft on this one.
The only other line I enjoyed in the movie was when the receptionist, I guess he's like the kiss ass of the group, and Gunther's yelling at them, and he said, she said there was bigger bugs than when you guys came. And he said, yeah, the size of puppies. That was one.
Man, if those were puppies dressed up like cockroaches, this movie would be legendary.
Everything would be different.
Hey, what's up, Horror Movie Night listeners? We are Scott and Liam versus Evil, all the way from sunny Scotland.
Every 2 weeks, we bring you 2 loosely linked horror films and more conspiracies than you can shake your anal probe at.
So find us online, search for Scott and Liam versus Evil.
We're fun, we're gloriously not safe for work,
and we say fuck a lot.
All right, so what'd you guys watch this week?
Oh, I watched some bullshit that I wanted to talk about. B. Kelly, you know how last time you were on, we were talking about Ash versus Evil Dead.
Yes.
Have you finished it yet?
No, I think I got like an episode left of the first season.
Okay, and the nice thing is the second season is also on
Netflix
as well.
Yeah.
So I burnt through that in I think I burnt through both seasons in maybe 7 or 8 days. Like it does not happen very often that happens to me, but I did that. And because of that, I saw on Hulu that Xena Warrior Princess, all the seasons were on there, and I was like, Lucy Lawless was pretty entertaining in Ash vs. Evil Dead. I wonder, I've never watched Xena Warrior Princess. I should give it a shot. And that was the second mistake of my week besides watching Bugged, because Xena is awful. I didn't even make it through the first episode. It was so bad. That shit is painful.
You made a lot of bad decisions this week, Scott. We're going to get into that next week.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm going to pretend that the other 2 mistakes that I made happened next week, but they actually all happened in the span of 7 days.
Yeah, this is just a bad week in the life of Scott Roger.
It was okay overall. I just made a lot of bad decisions. I just kept my head up. It is what it is.
So I didn't watch a pile of shit this week. I watched this Netflix movie, A Stupid and Futile Gesture, about the guy who created National Lampoon. And it's
that's on my list.
It's directed by David Wayne, and it was wow. It was it's one of those things where I can't tell if the movie is as great as I genuinely feel it is, or if it's just like I've never seen anyone like on an emotional level that I've related to than who this movie's about. But it was incredible. I mean, the cameos, what it was they didn't really try to do looks like, but they got some great impressions of Bill Murray. And then the guy who did Rodney Dangerfield is great. The only one that looked and sounded nothing like them, I like to think, is just a shout out to Community, because Jeff Winger plays Chevy Chase.
All right, so I had to kill 2 hours. So I went to the movies and I saw Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. And it actually, I'm not going to lie, wasn't, I expected it to be way worse than it actually was. I had a pretty good time. What I did have to laugh at is The Rock is so clearly playing The Rock throughout the movie. There's a scene that, the premise is the same as the original Jumanji, except that they're stuck inside of a video game version. And it's actually really I think it's smart the way that they get there, because at first I was like, what, they fucking mass produced the Jumanji board game into a video game? And it's not that. It's that the board game recognizes that it's an outdated form of entertainment and morphs itself into a video game console. So people are oh, I'm curious what this thing is, because I've never, I'm a gamer and I've never seen this console before. And that's how it pulls people in. But there's a point where they realize that if they slap their chest, it'll bring up their character's stats. So the one dude brings up The Rock's stats and he has no weaknesses, but he's going through all the stats and it's Okay, so my positives are I'm super strong, I'm super fast, I have skills with boomerang and smoldering intensity. And then as soon as he says it, he gives the people's eyebrow and stares off into the distance. And then there's another part where he's fighting and he does like a bunch of the Rock's old wrestling moves, but the whole time he's like yelling out what he's about to do, so it feels very familiar to like when he would wrestle, because he's just like block, dodge, punch, fall. Like, so like there's like a lot of like kind of funny stuff like that throughout it. Would I buy it? No, but if someone was watching it, I would probably stick around. But I also watched another episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So I watched episode 5, Different Drum. And it continues the issue in which the youth center just feels like a Troma set piece. In this episode, Kim is teaching a dance class, because why have teachers when you can get 15-year-olds to teach your classes? And the character of Billy trips and he falls on a cart, and the cart zooms all over the entire dance studio, into the locker rooms, out of the locker rooms, through the cafeteria, and then he falls off the cart. And we discover that Rita hates dance music so much that she's going to create a music monster. Also, Kim speaks perfect sign language to a deaf girl. Finally, Bulk and Skulls show up, and they have a dance-off with Zach, in which Bulk rips his pants for the second time in 5 episodes. There's only 12 minutes left of the episode, still no monster. Then they finally debut the monster, and he fucking sucks. He's a fat Viking with an accordion that hypnotizes people with his music. But the deaf girl isn't hypnotized, so she follows the group, sees where they're being taken, and then she runs back to the youth center, but she can't find Kim, who we've established speaks sign language, so she's trying to tell Jason about it, and it's like straight out of a scene from Lassie, because he's like, I think she's trying to tell us there's danger. What's wrong, girl? And she's like... So all of a sudden the putties start dancing too, which is pretty amazing, and then all the monsters take a nap. Like, they're just like, oh man, the Power Rangers haven't shown up yet, let's take a nap. And this is when, for a split second, we find out that the Viking can turn invisible, and then it's never brought up again. And there's still only 6 minutes left of the episode, and the Power Rangers haven't shown up, so I'm starting to get concerned that this might be a 2-parter. But then, holy shit, the Power Rangers show up and beat him in 30 seconds. And then the deaf girl pulls Billy on the dance floor, and now he can break dance. And that is the end of episode 5, Different Drum.
I gotta watch that show.
Is that really your takeaway?
Yeah.
All right, well, that was Bugged from 1997, as picked by me. Join us next week when we revisit a past mistake. Thanks a bunch, Scott. And... you know, we'll see how that goes. Hey, Brian, do you want to revisit our past mistakes with us?
Sure.
All right. Well, tune in, because it's a fucking shit show. I can tell you that much. You can always check us out on our Facebook page, on our Twitter accounts, on our everything. We're everywhere. We're taking over the internet. But the best place to find us is hmnpodcast.com. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back next week.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.